I drive 8 hours a week just to get to and from work. I work 12 to 14-hour days. I am also building a business. I am on a committed weight loss journey. I am still recovering from a car accident that happened 6 months ago. And on top of all of that, I'm still trying to be a functional human being. So when these gurus tell me to wake up just a little bit earlier, hustle a little bit harder, I smile very politely while I am internally combusting. Let's talk about actual work-life balance for a real-life entrepreneur. Hello, my beautiful entrepreneurs. My name is Tabitha, and welcome to A Hot Mess Builds an Empire. I help day one entrepreneurs take that first terrifying leap into business ownership without completely losing their minds in the process. This channel is dedicated to the people who are standing on the edge of something really scary, but also equally just as marvelous, wondering if they are absolutely unhinged for even considering the jump. Before we start today's episode, I just want to let you know that Hot Mess Triage is moved to Sundays and Tuesdays. This is because I went back to work after my car accident, so my days off kind of changed. So Sundays and Tuesdays is when I am available for you. And this is my one-on-one coaching service that you requested of me. You wanted me to become a business coach. You guys convinced me to become a business coach. I said I wasn't going to do it for like 10 or 15 years, but you absolutely convinced me to do it. And I'm having a really great time doing it. So I guess I owe you a big thanks because this has been really fun for me and just something new and different and challenging for me and my growth and my development of my business. And if you're wondering what this one-on-one coaching service is for, this is for day one entrepreneurs or people who started a business and then came back to it and then left it and then came back to it. And you're just kind of looking for foundational systems to put in place to help your business be successful. There is no wrong way to being an entrepreneur. There is no correct way to being an entrepreneur. But there are easier ways to being an entrepreneur, and that's where I come in. I help you get set up for success on the back end, what your customer journey looks like, all of that. And you can find the link to book with me in this YouTube description. It'll take you to my stand store, and it's called Hot Mess Triage. And you can find a time that works for you, and I cannot wait to learn about your business. Today, we're going to be talking about time management and how to balance having a full-time job, real life, building a business, all of the things. And I'm going to be using my own life as a main example of everything because I am not one of those productivity gurus who's going to tell you to wake up at 4 a.m. and work out and drink lots of green things and take ice cold plunges and, close $1 million deals before noon. Listen, if people are getting away with that, that's fantastic, great for them, but that's not what it looks like for entrepreneurs who are out here grinding and hustling and trying to make it happen while also working a full-time job, while also juggling a family or going to school or whatever. So I just want to talk about how it is that I balance my routine, what it is that I've used in terms of mindset and growth and development that has helped me feel less guilty about things or feel less frustrated with my time constraints. So the first thing we're going to talk about is mindset. And, because before any system or any tool, it's really important that you have a really realistic and understanding and compassionate mindset for yourself when you go into everything, right? Like if you are not being compassionate with yourself and you're not giving yourself grace, you're going to find that balancing everything is just way more difficult than it needs to be because you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself to manage your time a certain kind of way. For me, one of the biggest things was I thought that I had to manage my time equally. Like whatever I am throwing into work is the amount of time I should throw into my business, is the amount of time I should throw into me and my health. And it just doesn't work that way. it's real life, man. And some things are going to be way more demanding than others. Some things are going to be hella more urgent and need to be prioritized over other things. And there are some weeks where some things are just not going to demand my attention. And then there are other weeks where they are going to demand all of me. And that is something that you have to accept. And that is something that you have to be flexible about. And I know that really sucks, especially when you want to give it your all every single week with building your business. But listen, man, sometimes it just doesn't happen that way. And you have to accept it, right? Give yourself some grace, but you just have to accept that we are not always in control of all the time we want, right? And it is better to approach it from a different angle so that this way, when things happen, there's kind of a controllable system in place that makes you feel a little bit more in control of your time. Now, there are 3 filters that I use to help sort of regulate what it is that I have going on. Now, work has its own routine, and I'm going to go over my full routine here shortly, but when it comes to everything outside of work, there is priority, urgency, and depth. So there are things that could be super, super urgent, such as this week, I am hosting a workshop. Excuse me, I'm just getting a little more comfortable. I am hosting a workshop on Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time through the Mess Hall, my monthly meetup community for day one entrepreneurs. And we are going over rate sheets, by the way, if you want to join. It's only $5. And we're going to be putting together packages so that you can feel like you're not undercharging and over delivering, right? So this week has that sense of urgency to market and show up every day and make sure I'm in my stories, make sure I'm in my reels, make sure I'm talking about it on threads, that whole thing, right? This week has some urgency behind it because I want people to join me on Saturday. I feel like what I'm about to do for a workshop is really cool, really helpful, and honestly, really cheap and affordable to do. And there's so much value that I'm providing for $5 for one person. And I don't even get all of that $5, by the way. Everybody takes a little bit out of the pie, right? Before that $5 even hits my pocket. So I'm not even really doing it for a lot of money. And I just think it's really important for me to build trust, build community. And, I know what my time is that I'm investing in this to help build up other facets of my business. So this week has a lot of urgency behind it. There's a lot of prioritization for certain topics this week. And now next week is going to be completely different. Next week, as far as I know right now, it doesn't have too much urgency behind it, but there are topics that are going to be prioritized, right? There are topics that, such as like balancing ADHD has been coming up a lot in my feed. So I want to address that when you have ADHD as an entrepreneur. I also want to address like women's history and women's myths in a balance with being a day one entrepreneur, right? Like there's all these things that I'm kind of integrating along with a solo travel aspect and how that has played a huge part in being part of my business, right? So I'm going to prioritize topics next week. And then on top, that third one, depth. Now, this is where it can get kind of tricky because depth is the heavy stuff, the substantially heavy stuff where I know it's going to take me longer to dive into. Now, if there's something that's going to take me 15, 20 minutes to do, I will knock it out sometime during the week. And I will probably save it for one of my work days because I don't have a lot of time at my work days to give to my business. So usually you'll see me save something that can take me 15, 20 minutes to do, such as batching reel covers real quick or batching a carousel or two, and scheduling that. That's something that doesn't have a lot of depth to it in terms of like what it takes to create it, right? The content part of it is already done. It's just the quick getting it ready to go, the graphics ready to go. But if there is true depth behind something where it's like a YouTube video like this where I'm diving into my own personal life, yeah, that's not going to happen during the week. That's going to happen at 2:54 a.m. Wednesday morning while I'm trying to batch some YouTube videos to post throughout the week. So those are the three filters that it is that I use that definitely help with my mindset in terms of how I am spreading out my time. Now, when it comes to time, there is something that I think there are two things. My microphone's hiding it. Two things that I think productivity gurus do not address, do not go over, and it's just so important that we address these two things. The first and foremost, number one, there is a huge difference between the time you wish you had and the time you actually have. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but most of the time, especially when we start a business, we're very bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and in the honeymoon phase. We think we have so much time with all of our other obligations and priorities going on that we burn out and we feel really, really guilty that we just don't have time for X thing. Whether it's you start sacrificing something with your family, you start sacrificing time with your business you're creating, you start sacrificing the energy that you're using to show up for your full-time job or school or whatever. That comes down to wishful thinking. And I want you to take a step back and look at the time that you actually have available to you, because that is going to be a huge game changer when you have that reality check. The second thing that I don't think productivity gurus mention at all, this is something that I hear quite often actually, and I'm shocked that people think it's okay to say, where the phrase, we all have the same 24 hours. We all have 24 hours in the day, but we don't. We don't all have the same 24 hours. I mean, not to get too heavy and deep into this, but this all comes down to culture and socioeconomic paths growing up and, the placement that you're in now, education, all kinds of stuff, right? We do not all have the same 24 hours from the get-go, right? From the time we are born, we do not all have the same 24 hours. And this will show its ugly little self when you start your business. You'll do like I wish I had this life, I wish I had this, I wish I had that, I wish I had this, and that wishful thinking starts to come up again. Don't do that to yourself, but realize we don't all have the same 24 hours. I work full-time in a warehouse. I have 8 hours worth of commuting each week. I work 50-ish hours each week at my job. On top of the fact that I have all these doctor appointments because of recovering from my car accident. I try to go to the gym and work out and meal prep and all these things for my health. And, it's just, we don't all have the same kind of time to sit here and run billion-dollar companies, right? So when it comes to your family obligations, whether you're married with children, single with children, have a bunch of pets, running an animal rescue, you're in school full time, you're juggling multiple jobs and also building a business, like whatever it is that your life looks like. Please note that I totally get it, that we do not all have the same 24 hours. We don't. So while some of these things might be helpful to you, some of them may not be helpful to you, and I totally understand that. Please take away from this video what it is that you feel like you can take away from this video. This video is not meant to be like, well, this is what I do, so obviously this is what you have to do, and that's the only way that all of us can be successful. This is not black and white. There is so much gray area when it comes to time management, And it's not down to poorly managing your time, right? There are some aspect of wishful thinking that I think we don't address too much, where it's like, oh, I'm going to have 8 hours on Sunday. Are you really, though? Do you consider bathroom breaks and eating and mental breaks and walking away and giving your eyes a break from the screen? And like, do you really actually have 8 hours, or is it more like 5, right? So there's just things I want you to realistically think about before you sit down for the day and work on something. But also at the same time, I understand that we all have craziness going on in our lives, that it's just impossible to sit here and cover every variable and make you feel like this video is 100% for you. This video is a percentage for you. Don't get me wrong. I think there's something to be said for the mindset thing and kind of categorizing your time and not feeling guilty about not giving your business all of you when you have all of these other things going on. And I think there's something to be said for pushing back on the we all have the same 24 hours thing. I heard that a while ago and I just was like, who said that? Who came up with that? And then I heard, I think it was one of the Kardashians said it, and I was like, the Kardashians. Listen, I know they run billion-dollar empires, but I can't stand when billionaires are like, we all have the same 24 hours. We do not. We do not. We do not come from the same backgrounds. We do not have the same upbringing. There are different barriers that we have all faced, different obstacles that we have all faced, are still facing. So when somebody says we all have the same 24 hours, do not feel guilty that you have somehow done something wrong when you're struggling to make it work, right? So those are two things that I really wanted to point out, is the wishful thinking on time. Know how much time you really have. And we do not all have the same 24 hours. I 100% understand that. I really do. Now, the last thing I kind of want to touch on before I go into what my actual routine looks like is there is also a lot of neurotypical productivity hacks out there. There's a lot of neurotypical based color-coded calendars and a lot of neurotypical based, like, just advice in general. Like, this is how this works for a neurotypical brain in terms of organizing and like batching. I can't do batching. I've now decided to stray away from even calling what I do batching, and I call it completion looping, because I have to finish tasks from start to finish. So I have to loop through everything. I can't just do little sections and stages each day until by the end of the week I have a finished product. No, I can't do it. I have to have the finished product now. It's an ADHD thing. It might be an autistic thing. I don't know. And it's an impatient thing for sure. But I absolutely need to have everything finished from start to finish. So I do looping, not batching. And that has been very helpful to address more about how I work, how I thrive with my ADHD brain. So if you fall in the neurotypical category, there are a lot of things out there for you and how your brain works and how you can shut things off and be really organized. And, sometimes I get jealous of a neurotypical brain. I really do, because my husband is neurotypical, and like, he just so easily can turn things off, focus on something, and then go back to something else. And I'm like, how do you do that? How do you turn your brain off like that? And then there's me, completely neurodivergent to a T, right? Like, across the board neurodivergent. And I can't turn things off. Like, so I have to loop through. So I think it's really important too to understand how your brain works, and don't fight it, right? Don't fight against how it is that your brain thinks, because then you'll start to feel bad about yourself, or you'll start to think something's wrong with you, and there isn't. It's just that your brain may work a little bit differently because you're neurodivergent or because you're neurotypical. And when more times than not, when you're neurodivergent, you kind of have to write your own playbook for how it is that you're doing things, because your brain is going to work completely different from everybody else's, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing, right? It's so beautiful when you're neurodivergent. But, you have to anticipate that you're not going to like linearly do stuff, right? So just be kind to the approach that your brain needs, and you'll find that it's easier to lean into being neurodivergent when you acknowledge that you're neurodivergent and that you have different needs in the setups that you have for your week. Rigid timeframes do not work for me. Deadlines usually work for me, but that's because I like the pressure. I'm just kind of like, this has to be done by Friday. I live for it. Done by Friday. But also like I'm learning more and more how to deal with my own brain, medicated or not, right? Like I am neurodivergent, and, you want to build for your brain. You want to know your brain, and you don't want to feel guilty for how it is that your brain works if you're neurodivergent, right? So that's just another thing that I think is important to address, because I also understand that everybody has different needs when it comes to how it is that they work. So I understand that sometimes for me, it takes me a while to get going. It takes me a while to get into something. So I usually start off with sort of softer tasks to kind of get into it. And then I'll, after I've warmed up and after I've completed something and I go like, oh, I completed this, there's like a reward system, like these endorphins of like, oh, I completed this, I completed this, I did this and I did this and I did this. And then I start to like feel myself get very excited for it. And that's one of those things too, where like, don't wait to feel motivated. Don't wait to feel ready. Like just do the thing. And that's usually how it is for me, is I have to start doing the thing. And then once I accomplish a couple things, I'll be like, look at all this stuff I'm knocking out. You know what? Now next I'm going to do this. So just know how your brain works and reward your brain when it feels necessary, to help you get through those times. Because the other thing too, like sometimes your brain loves to be rewarded with a break. Like it's working hard, it's doing all the things. And then you go, you know what? I've been at this for 2 hours. We're going to take a 15-minute break. And your brain's like, oh, yay. Oh my God. Yay. Give your brain a break, work with how it is that you think. And I think that that's also really important for time management. Okay. So what does Tabby's week actually look like? So like I said, 8 hours a week is already off the list for commuting to and from work. I work 4 days a week and I work 12 to 14-hour days. Honestly, I'm a manager in a warehouse, and honestly, it just depends on the day. Every day is different. I work with a lot of conveyance and logistics and engineering, and some days I'm there late because something went down and I have to be there for it, whether that's on a bridge call with our IT teams, or whether it's, staying to hand off to the next shift because of, some facilities and maintenance stuff. It happens. And then there's other days where my 12 hours is a breeze and I get out of there. Now, it depends on what I did for that 12 hours to like know if I'm really exhausted or not. I do work in a physically, like a very high physical job. And also it's a very fast paced environment, and I'm on my computer all the time. I'm doing lots of analytics and dealing with macros and Excel and all that jazz. Right. So, there are days where I am drained, depending on what it is that I've done. If I've created SOPs, which is a standard of operation procedure, if I created like a bunch of SOPs and I went through a bunch of processes and I did a bunch of stuff, like I'm beat, because you have to think about the timing. You have to think about rates. You have to think about volume and all. There's lots of math. And, some days it can be really difficult to be a manager in operations. And then there are other days where like everybody's on it, everybody's in a good mood, and no team members need anything from you from an HR perspective. Everybody's quiet and working, and the day's really easy, and you get out in 12 hours, and it was like, huh, I'm going to go home and post on Instagram. Like it depends on the day. So because there are so many variables with my job, I do not plan anything for those 4 days. Anything that I accomplish in those 4 days is a bonus. Whether that's sitting down to record a YouTube video, batching, or I should say looping. I'm trying to work on my rephrasing that for me. But whether that's looping a couple of things for Instagram or being on Threads or whatever, I have found that those 4 days, like not putting any pressure on those 4 days is a game changer. Because for the longest time, I would get up early and I would try to do something every single day. And I was burning myself out because I wasn't getting rest. I didn't have the capacity. And what really put that into perspective was the car accident. That made me really, really, really look at what it is that my bandwidth and capacity are on a single day. Now, my weekends, they're very content creation heavy. Usually Sundays and Tuesdays are dedicated to my business because Mondays are dedicated to doctor's appointments, iron infusions, physical therapy, cognitive therapy. I try to go to the gym a couple times a week. I really do, like early in the morning. That doesn't always happen, but I do try. And then there's meal prep in there on Tuesdays for my work week. So, that's kind of what my week looks like. And there are weeks where I have like this past week, I had so many doctor's appointments. And then, when I saw the concussion doctor the other day, she wants me to see a neuro-ophthalmologist, and that kind of turned into something that I wasn't expecting. And, full disclosure, I just had a growth removed, that is currently up for biopsy for skin cancer. So like that's weighing me down until I hear back about that. And it's crazy, right? Like the things that manage to kind of derail you for a moment in your personal life, and it makes it really difficult to show up for your business. So that's what I have going on in my personal life. That's what I have going on in my work life. And, what I do is I try to protect my peace first. I have learned, it took a really long time to learn, but I have to give myself grace. I have to learn to protect my peace, because if I do not, then everything falls apart and I fall apart, and it's just a huge domino effect, right? So it's really important to take my mental health and my physical health and spiritual health and emotional health and all of the healths and wellnesses and put them first. So they always have priority, right? That's that priority, urgency, depth thing. What also has priority is my job. I need to pay my mortgage. I need to take care of my bills. Although I have disposable income, most of my income goes to powering my business and investing in my business, and I'm happy to do it. But it's just one of those things, like that's where my money goes. And it's important to keep that job. With gas prices the way they are, oh my God. You guys, for the United States right now, it's like $5 a gallon where I am. And it's just so crazy that gas is this high. Okay. And before I go on a political rant, but it's important to have some kind of system in place, but to be flexible with your time. So that's what I'm getting to with this. Each week is a little bit different for me. This past week was very doctor appointment heavy. but there are other weeks where I only have like one doctor appointment and I can just do like all the content creation. Whereas today, now I had to wait until Tuesday this week to really like knock it out. And now it's Wednesday morning and I'm still trying to knock it out with my looping. So there you have it. There's what my week looks like. It's not glamorous. It's not sexy. It's not ice baths and green smoothies. I can't even drink those green smoothies. I can barely drink a protein shake that tastes like strawberries. Okay. So I don't know how these people are doing this green drink stuff. Ugh. Okay. Next, I'm going to talk about the tools I use to kind of help keep me on my game, right? So I have the list here. I use Metricool. Metricool it's a scheduling app. It lets you post to Threads, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, X. I think TikTok is on there, maybe. So many platforms are available on Metricool. It is a reasonably priced app. They do have a free version. I don't know all the details of the free version. When I was posting for Threads on their free version, it gave me, I think, 50 posts per month. So I don't know if that was for just Threads or if that's 50 posts per month for everything. So you'll have to do a little more diving on that. Next is Airtable. All my content creation is managed through Airtable. My business finances, everything is managed through Airtable. Next is my Stan Store. That is my centralized storefront. That's where my links are for people to find me on different platforms. It's where all my products live. It's where all my coaching stuff lives. So Stan Store is something that I use quite religiously. Next, I use Zoom clips for recording my videos. I used to use Photo Booth, but that, shame on me at this point in time. It burned me far too many times not recording my videos. So now I use Zoom clips and it's been awesome. Even the sound sounds better with my microphone. So I just, no notes, 10 out of 10 right now. I use Adobe Premiere Pro to edit my videos. And then I do use Claude and ChatGPT for scheduling tasks for the day. I usually let it know like, hey, this is what I have going on today. These are the things that are priority. This is what's urgent. This is what causes depth. And this is how much time I have today. And I let it sort of divvy up my time. And this creates some spiral-free thinking, which I really appreciate. Because yes, I could sit and write it out myself, but I would be like, oh, I don't know. Like there's like a lot of emotional attachment to everything, whereas ChatGPT and Claude are not emotionally attached to what it is I need to get done. They just see what it is I need to get done and do it. And then I just started connecting Claude to some of my other things like Airtable. So cool that I could do that. I connected it to my kit for my newsletter so that this way I can kind of like really dive into my analytics a little bit more. Like it's so neat to be able to integrate these things together to kind of like just organize my life a little bit better with AI. And I really love AI tools. I just think there's something about them that really helps my organization, especially for having an ADHD brain. It makes it so much easier to go like, no, I don't have the mental capacity to do that task right now. Let's put it to a later point in the list because it's not a priority, so it's nice to be able to do that for myself. So I do want to go over a couple of things where it's okay if it's not working. For me, rigid daily schedules do not work for me. Like I said, I'm a looping type person. Everything has to have a completion loop to it. I can't like just film on Mondays. Excuse me. I can't just film on Mondays and edit on Tuesdays and post and schedule on Wednesdays. Like I just can't do that. Everything has to be, I film 3 reels, I edit 3 reels, I post and schedule 3 reels. Done. I'm not sure if that's more or less time consuming, but that's just how my brain works. And I need to address that and accommodate my brain for that kind of thinking. What else do I have here that is not, trying to do everything every single day. I discourage that because you are going to find it to be a monotonous thing. You're going to find that it's very hard to keep up with that. I have business days, I have recovery days, I have hybrid days, I have just at work exhausting days. Um, and it is very difficult to try and do the same thing every day when every day is not the same, right? Um, so just keep that in mind with your schedule. Again, that is that wishful thinking versus realistic schedule thing. Next, I have perfectionism in the editing process does not work. You have to come to peace with the fact that perfection is a moving target that you are never going to hit. I say this a lot, and that's because it's true. Because when you put perfection as your goal, that goalpost is always going to be moving. You're never going to reach it. So just know that posting good enough, posting messy, posting imperfect is fabulous and totally fine. And it means that you're showing up, and it means that you're posting, and it means that you're doing things. And if there's something you don't know how to do, learn how to do it and worry about it for next time, right? Like this is not something that you have to spend all your time and energy into learning something every single day, and then you can't do anything because it's not perfect, because it's not. Post it, create it, write it, draft it, whatever it is that you're holding back on, do it imperfectly, do it messy. And you will find that it is so much better when you churn that shit out. It's just so much better. I do think it's important to note that if I had unlimited time and energy, the schedule that I have right now is not what I would be doing. The schedule that I have right now is addressing the fact that I have a full-time job, and I'm in recovery, that I'm on a weight loss journey, all of the things, right? So, if I was doing this full time, my schedule would look way different than it does right now. There would still be lots of looping, but I would go back to posting my daily videos to YouTube on the daily and not trying to batch them at 3 o'clock in the morning. There's just so much that would be different if I had a limited time and energy, right? And I would still take into consideration that my brain is neurodivergent and it works a certain kind of way. So, just know that there are things that can always break the system, even if you have a good system in place right now. Just be on the lookout for things that aren't working, things that could be fine tuned. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. So, if you find that there's something where you're just like, oh my God, every Tuesday, I hate that I have to do this. Well, why? What's going on Tuesdays that you're just not looking forward to getting anything done, and it's like a barrier to you showing up for your business? Like, just kind of think about those things, and you'll find that you can work through most of your time management stuff that way. Now, listen, my system is not pretty. It's not, but it's functional and it's mine. It's what keeps my business going right now. It's what's helping to fuel the empire and move the needle forward with my business. So, it's what is working as of right now. 2 months down the road, that could be a completely different story. My time could change. My hours can change at my job. Like, there are just so many variables that I play it like 1 month at a time, in terms of like, okay, for the next month out, this is where I'm at. That's why my my hot mess triage only goes out for about 30 or 60 days, because I just don't know what my life is going to look like 30 or 60 days from now. So, yeah, I hope this video was helpful. I hope it was helpful to see what it is that a real life entrepreneur is going through. I don't take ice baths. I don't drink green stuff. I don't sit here and tell you that everybody is the same 24 hours and you're just not doing with it what you should be doing with it. No, I'm not going to tell you that. I'm not, because it's just so not true. And I just think it comes down to being realistic about your time and understanding how your brain works, and the priority, the urgency, and depth of the categories of things that it is that you need to get done. Don't forget to check out my link in the YouTube description that takes you to my Stan store, where you can book me for a one-on-one. It's called Hot Mess Triage. And it's where we talk about your business. And I love learning about other people's businesses. I love seeing how brilliant and smart and amazing other people are. It doesn't matter where you are in your journey. Like, it's just amazing to see what it is that you guys are creating. So thank you so much for those of you who have shared that with me. It's been really cool. Thank you so much for watching this video. I truly hope it was helpful. Please like it, please subscribe, and I will see you next time.